Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and explain my code. My name is Dewan, and I'm a part of the CSC376 Distributed Systems class. All right, so for this assignment, we had to make sure that we could properly define and also make sure the input and output command lined up with the test given. So for this, I imported import SYS because that's necessary for to store the arguments, but the command line arguments and also just the access arguments in general. Also for the read line, so that was necessary. Because it said printed, the instructions over here made sure that we had to print it out first for the standard input right here. So I did print standard input. I had to make sure it was exactly the same. Then I wanted to define in the next line, line 6, what I wanted to define exactly what the input was. So I did text input equals sys.stn, like to read in every line given. Then I said while the input is not empty, so while there is something to be read, and it's not an empty string, print both the text input, but then I did the end here. So end equals the empty is to delete the new line. I was getting an issue with new line. It wasn't matching up with the actual test cases. And so end equals empty string, or empty string, I was able to fix that for me. And then here I did text input, read line. So that way as I am going through, because it's already reading line initially, but each time, that way now at each iteration, it's reading in a new line right here. Then I made an options argument. I made an options argument right here, and it has 2 empty strings and a false because for H particularly, did not have anything to read into it or read out. I just kind of assumed that it should be a Boolean because I didn't want to put an empty string there because it doesn't necessarily, it's not going to have anything inside. I guess I could have made it I could have done something where if it equals an empty string, because technically it is. There's nothing in it, but it is in string, which is the thing. So there's nothing gonna come after it. So I just left it as it was. Then I made an args to hold the arguments. Now the sys.argv. So then I put the command line arguments there. I assigned I as 1, and then I went ahead and said while this at this position, as long as this position is less than the length of the arguments in total, if this at this position in args, if it is equal to -0, which means that you're at -0, then whatever's next from that, put it inside. So put it in the option 0, which will contain this right here. That will contain the first argument. So then add whatever you see after -0, put it inside of there. Same thing goes with the -t. And then for args I-h, instead of doing anything like string related, I just did true, because true would mean that it was no longer false, meaning you do see the -h. And then I did iteration I equals I plus 1, but I just did the plus equal 1 just for, syntax sake. At the bottom here, we have print command arguments because that was also in the instructions. And then I said if the options at the first argument, if it's not empty, then print that argument because that has something in it, and I need to print that to go ahead with option 1. Because, option 1 is option 0 and syntactically in languages. Same thing goes with if option 1, the new string, if that is not empty as well, and the second argument, then option 2 will be printed out, right? Which is the second option right here in the options variable table, in the list, I'm sorry. And then lastly, if options 2 does not equal false, then you print out option 3 because that was also in the instructions. And that's how I came to the conclusion of getting this code to run. And then I checked it out, made sure I ran it against all the test cases, and I did exactly what you asked us to do, and it worked great. And so I was able to get it to terminate properly and receive all the points. But it did take me a while, especially with just getting the command arguments down and also the text input. Initially I didn't have the does not equal empty string, so I just needed to make sure that was correct. Other than that, that is how I completed the assignment. Thank you.